All right, guys, so today I am out here. It is the 4th of July. It is hot today, and it's about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm out here pruning some of my hydrangeas that are growing out for next year. And I want to just take a minute this morning and show you kind of what you're looking at. There's a right here in front of me. I'm really not sure how many there are, but maybe 75 to 100 silver dollar hydrangeas is the name of them. This is a paniculata hydrangea, similar to a limelight, a little bit smaller. But just for example, here's one of them in front of me, and it's just, this was we propagated this last year. It's grown to this point, so now it's time to prune these. But what I'm going to do when I prune them is just come down here pretty low on them and just cut them like that. And I'm going to take that cutting, and I'm throwing it over here in a bucket of water just so they don't wilt because it's hot. And I'm going to take the other one and prune it the same way. But what I want to show you in doing this is that this creates just literally an endless, almost infinite supply of cuttings. So that's what I'm going to do with these, is propagate these today, along with some other things I'm doing out here, just kind of nursery chores. This morning I want to bring you along and just show you some of this. Sometimes when I show you all these videos, I just kind of do a real fast run through. Here's how you do this, or here's how you do that. But, if you actually have a nursery, you spend a lot of time doing things like sitting on the ground pruning plants. Or, I see this one right here, and this one's got a big weed. Let me get that a little closer to you. It's got a big weed growing in it. Well, you also spend a lot of time pulling weeds. And guys, I just can't tell y'all how much I hate weeds, but like that plant right there, that's going to be an awesome plant. I'm going to prune this too and keep their cuttings. But look, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 branches on this little plant already. That's going to be a spectacular hydrangea next year. But this is also kind of a good way to get to know your plants, is just being down here on the ground with them, one plant at a time, hands-on, just kind of doing the monotonous work of pruning and gathering cuttings, and just kind of checking for weeds and seeing what's going on with them. And this is a great way to learn a ton about what you're doing in your nursery. Even on your little small ones that are not well developed, just even a little tiny plant like that is going to benefit greatly from giving it a pruning. So that really doesn't look like much now, but he'll thank you for it next year. So this will produce for me way more cuttings than I need. This plant right here, this one is very well branched as well. But we're going to prune every single branch so we don't have any of these really long, tall flyers. That's going to be just an awesome plant. I'm just kind of going through them, see how they get kind of lanky and leggy, and there's just 2 stems. That's not much of a plant. But in order to make it much of a plant next year, we're going to prune it. And we're going to take those cuttings and save them. We're just going to keep doing this over and over again. Now, this spring into early summer, we're the 4th of July now. I'm going to say I'm going to call it a third of the way through summer, but it has been extraordinarily hot. I mean, yeah, it's summer and we live in the mid-south and summer's always hot here, but we're daily having temperatures at about 95 degrees. Heat index between 105 and 110. I think we've had high heat warning a couple of days when the heat index is over 110. So when you mix our humidity in with our heat, it's been pretty hot, and we've had actually here at our house, we've had not even 1 drop of rain in about 4 weeks, and it's very dry. Grass has quit growing, and despite the fact that my plants are mostly in pots, it's been really hard to give these plants enough water to keep them strong. In fact, let me just show you what the heat's done over here. This exact group of Francie hostas that I'm showing you. Let me see what they've done over here on this side. This is on this little block of hostas here. This is the side that's facing south, which means that the sun is shining in from this direction. And this edge of pots here, all along this edge, every one of these leaves is burned from the sun. You can notice the rest of them are not that way, but out here on this edge are, and I think it's because the pots are getting hot and these edges are catching no shade at all from the other leaves, from the other plants. So, I mean, the sun and the heat have been brutal. We keep these things very well watered. Another weed. Look, guys, you just got to know, having a nursery means dealing with weeds. I hate weeds. And water's critical. Obviously, it's critical, but this year more so than ever. Now, something I wanted to come over and show you while we're just kind of wandering around out here in the nursery today. This is just a little low tunnel covered in white plastic, and these are mostly green giant arborvitae cuttings. There's a couple of pans in here, or trays of limelight hydrangea cuttings, and I put all these in here probably in February. I know that it was, you know, still winter, everything's still dormant, but I want you to just see this. Like, man, I'm super, super proud of this. Like, so these have been here for, what, 5 or 6 months now, and they have rooted at a really high rate. In fact, these even get weeds in them. I'm telling you, there's weeds everywhere. These have rooted at a really high rate, higher than any I've ever tried to do before, and I've never tried to do them exactly like this before, but I just stuck these as dormant cuttings into these dish pans and left them sitting out in the open for several weeks, and as the weather started to warm up, I just slid them underneath this high tunnel, and for a while I kept it covered just to maintain a high humidity environment for them, just to see what that did, because I had never tried it, and it looks like the results are going to be fantastic. I can't wait to show y'all this in the winter when I actually dig these out of here to see what the real final result is. But these are growing, and which means they're rooted, and I don't even see a dead one in here. There probably is. I couldn't believe that all of them would root. Really, really amazing. So this is a bed here of green giant arborvitae. Y'all know how much I love them. And we planted these here in whatever, February or March, and they were bare root. To be honest, they've not done great. In fact, here's a dead one, but keeping this bed weeded has been a nightmare this spring. And I don't know if it has to do with it being so hot, or if it's just that we neglected it, or I don't know what the deal is, but the weeds have been atrocious out here. And Casey spent, I don't know, several hours out here one week just on this relatively small bed. I mean, it's, you know, not even 100 square feet in size, but it was completely taken over by weeds. We're trying to stay on top of it now, but the heat's making everything hard, and even keeping this watered has been a chore. But anyway, I just want to show you these green giants, show you their progress. They haven't grown a ton even, but they look healthy. They're just not growing a lot. But anyway, this is our green giants bed. These hopefully will really start growing here in the next few weeks and be really nice size selling plants by next spring. Even the mixture that I use to make my plugs is extremely dry. I guess the good part about that is it makes it really easy to mix. So there's that. I got the hydrangeas over there pruned, and I got a whole bunch of their cuttings here in this bucket, and this is just the pruning. Wet, wet, wet. This is just a cutting or pruning off of one of those hydrangea plants that's growing out for next year. Come in here close, I want to just show you what to look for on this. And you can see the wood here. It's the same thing I've shown you several times, but you can see this fresh green wood here of most recent growth, and as you go down the stem, it gets darker and darker. Well, by the time you get down here to where it's brown, you don't want any of that. So just cut that off and discard it, and that's where your cuttings are going to come from, is from the newest growth you have. And we're going to do these with only one leaf node. So we're going to take a cutting right there. We'll take a cutting right there. We'll take a cutting from there. That should just about do it. You just take that and cut, about 90% of the leaves off of each one of those. This was the tip cutting, so I'll just do it a tad different, but it's really the same thing. And even these cuttings with a little bitty short stem on it like that, that will root absolutely fine. And stick them in those holes in your plug trays. And we're just going to repeat this over and over again with our prunings from our hydrangea plants that will be grown out, that'll be ready to sell next year. Now, The cool thing about that and taking your cuttings that way is that you don't have to have this variety of plant growing in your landscape to have an endless supply of cuttings. You're just taking cuttings from the plants you'll be selling next year or the next year. So really cool way to keep your nursery going and kind of just keep everything moving year after year after year without having to fill up your yard with a bunch of expensive plants. So we finished this tray of cuttings, put a label in it, silver dollar hydrangeas. As always, you gotta label your plants. And now these are ready to just go be put over under the mist, where in 6 or 8 weeks they'll be rooted and ready to begin growing. And I just sit these down right here and they'll catch plenty of mist for the next several weeks. I appreciate y'all watching today as we're out here just doing a few kind of random chores today and showing you what's going on in the summer. I love y'all, and I hope to see you on the next one.